Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into a topic that I think hits close to home for anyone who's ever tried to implement some kind of ambitious change. I want you to think about New Year's resolutions.
That is a perfect analogy. The enthusiasm in December is just palpable. You buy the perfect planner, you sign up for that high-end gym membership.
You ready to go?
You are ready to conquer the world. Everyone is promising this massive transformation.
But statistically, what actually happens, I mean, that initial motivation, it just burns out. The gym attendance drops off. The whole ambitious transformation, it stalls. Starting is always, always easier than sustaining. And according to this incredible stack of sources we reviewed, AI projects follow this exact same frustrating pattern.
Oh, absolutely.
They start with serious investment, bold promises, but the vast majority of them,
Yeah.
they just don't make it across the finish line.
They end up in what we're calling the AI project graveyard. And look, this isn't some theoretical place. It's a very real repository for projects that had brilliant ideas, really cool proofs of concept, but which fundamentally failed to deliver any, measurable business value.
So they're just prototypes forever.
Prototypes that never graduated, exactly.
And when you look at the statistics that define this graveyard, they are, frankly, shocking. Our sources point to multiple recent surveys that show, on average, only about 25% of all AI initiatives actually deliver the full return on investment, the ROI that they initially projected.
Which is staggering.
Think about that. 3 out of 4 projects fail to meet their own financial targets.
And we have to dig even deeper into that so-called successful 25%. Even among the projects that did deliver some value, only a startlingly small fraction, we saw figures as low as 16%, actually managed to scale their solution across the entire enterprise.
Wow. So the rest are just stuck.
They're stuck permanently in that pilot or proof of concept phase. They just can't bridge that gap between being a fascinating lab experiment and having a true, wide-ranging impact.
And that failure to scale, that's the critical choke point, isn't it? It's not just a technical inability. It's underestimating the sheer complexity of integrating that cool demo into messy, real-world operations.
It is.
So our mission for you today is to cut through that complexity. We've pulled 3 essential, really practical strategies directly from the sources, a roadmap, if you will, to ensure your project delivers real impact and avoids becoming just another ghost in the machine.
Let's start with the biggest, most common mistake, the foundational flaw.
The sources are, they're unanimous on this. The absolute biggest mistake is starting with the technology instead of the problem. Too many teams begin a project by saying, we have this incredible new model, or, we have access to this massive data lake. How can we use AI?
And that, right there, instantly puts the cart before the horse. The most critical insight here is that AI is just a tool. It's like a sophisticated hammer. It is not the goal itself.
Right.
If your starting point is the technology, you are almost guaranteed to define the value proposition incorrectly, or maybe not at all. You end up building a highly sophisticated solution, and then you're just searching around hoping to find a clear, high-value problem that it happens to fit.
That sounds like a recipe for scope creep and, honestly, just wasted resources. If you don't anchor the project to a real business need, how do you even measure if it was worth the money?
Exactly. When you don't connect your AI effort to a specific, measurable business outcome, the sources describe the scenario as building in the dark. And the costs of this ambiguity are massive. Projects drift, technical teams pursue these exciting but ultimately non-essential optimizations.
And then the executive review comes.
And when it comes time for that review, there's no clear justification for the project's continued existence. The better starting question must always be, what is the specific, high-priority business challenge we are trying to solve?
And what does success look like?
And what will success look like on the balance sheet?
So how do we make this practical? If a team is starting out, how do they avoid building in the dark? How do they define that true North Star metric?
The sources insist on defining success metrics before the first line of training code is ever written. You need a true North Star, a metric that everyone, and I mean everyone, agrees defines the project's success. And crucially, it has to be quantifiable and tied to the health of the business.
So we're not talking about vague goals like improving efficiency.
No, absolutely not. We need granular detail.
And that level of detail is what really makes it stick, right? The sources gave some excellent examples of what a true North Star looks like in practice. It moves the whole discussion from just aspiration to, well, accountability.
It does. It shifts the entire conversation from the data science lab to the revenue team. So, for instance, a measurable goal could be, reducing customer churn among top-tier clients by 10% within 6 months.
That's specific.
Very specific. Or an operational goal. Decreasing the time spent processing a loan application by 15%.
Yeah.
Or even a direct financial goal. Cutting the annual cost of fraud detection by $2 million by Q3.
I want to focus on that improving efficiency example for a second, because if a team just says, our goal is to improve operational efficiency, the data scientist might assume that means, I don't know, reducing a model's latency by 50 milliseconds.
Right. A technical goal?
But the operations lead might think it means reducing the number of manual clicks somebody has to do in a legacy system.
And that is the perfect illustration of the ambiguity trap. A 50-millisecond reduction in latency is a technical achievement, sure, but if it doesn't translate into reducing manual clicks or saving the company money, it's just a technical solution chasing an irrelevant problem.
So the true North Star has to define the financial or operational impact.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
forces the technical team to optimize for value, not just for, speed or accuracy in a vacuum.
And the sources emphasize that this measurement isn't a one-time thing either. It's not just set it and forget it.
Absolutely not. You have to measure the impact repeatedly, both during development and as you roll the project out. The return on investment, it's often not linear. It can be exponential as the project matures. But if you don't have that measurable starting point, you risk ending up with just a technically impressive demo.
A shiny artifact.
A shiny artifact that delivers zero verifiable impact in the real world. That initial clarity is your defense against wasting millions of dollars chasing technology for its own sake.
Okay, so tip 1 is the what and the why. Start with a clear, measurable business problem. Now let's transition to tip 2, which is all about the who. It's about securing that strategic stakeholder buy-in and doing it early.
This is so critical because AI projects are inherently cross-functional. They're seismic shifts, not simple updates. They touch different processes, different roles, legacy systems,
Different budgets.
and different budget lines across the entire organization.
And we all know from experience that even the most brilliant solution will fail if the people whose jobs it affects don't trust it or just refuse to use it. Lack of organizational alignment is probably the single fastest way to stall a project, no matter how good the model is.
The core challenge here is really one of translation and communication. The sources highlight that early buy-in means speaking the different roles' languages and, crucially, avoiding technical jargon at all costs when you're talking to business leaders.
Oh, that's a big one.
The moment you start talking about training data subsets or the specifics of a deep neural network, you've lost your audience.
The focus has to shift from how the model works to how it creates value for that specific person. It's about personalizing the value prop.
Precisely. Let's take the stakeholders we saw in the sources. You have to tailor the pitch to their individual incentives. So think about the team that built the model. They're deeply concerned with precision, recall, and, ROC curves.
Right. And they might present their beautiful, complex curve demonstrating their model's optimization to the executive team.
Which is exactly where it fails. The chief financial officer, for example, is not interested in statistical accuracy metrics. The CFO cares about cost savings, risk reduction, and a verifiable ROI projected over 3 years.
So showing a technical curve to a CFO is like speaking a foreign language.
It is. You have to translate that curve directly into dollar signs. You can just picture it. A data scientist so excited about their technical achievement, meeting a complete brick wall of executive confusion.
Absolutely. And what about the operations lead?
Well, they aren't worried about the training data either. Their priority is workflow integration. They need to know, without any ambiguity, how this new tech fits into their existing systems. Does it require 10 new API calls? Will it introduce latency that slows everything down?
They just want to avoid friction.
They need assurance that it avoids friction and won't disrupt the critical systems they rely on every single day.
And finally, the customer success team. Their success is all about user retention and satisfaction.
Their lens is entirely different. They want to see how this project demonstrably improves customer retention or speeds up service times. If the AI tool adds complexity to the customer journey, even if it saves the company money somewhere else,
They'll become a blocker.
they will quickly become a blocker, not a champion.
So, the team leading the AI initiative, they have to act as a sort of translation service. They connect the dots and make sure that every stakeholder sees clear, distinct value in their own terms.
And when people see that clear value, they move from being passive recipients of the technology to being active champions for it. And that internal support, those champions in finance, in operations, and customer success, that's what provides the organizational gravity you need to pull the project out of pilot purgatory and truly let it scale.
So alignment isn't a soft skill.
It is a hard prerequisite for scaling, period.
That sets us up perfectly for our final crucial tip. We've defined the problem with tip 1, and we've secured the buy-in with tip 2. Now we arrive at the execution hurdle, which is often where the most brilliant prototypes go to die. The production challenge.
This is the shift from the clean, controlled environment of the lab to the messy, constantly changing reality of the real world.
Yeah.
Using data to build a fantastic model is only half the battle. The far more difficult challenge is taking that model and successfully deploying it into a live, maintained, operational production environment.
And deployment is where, based on our earlier stats, something like 84% of projects ultimately stumble. Why is taking that final leap into production so much harder than the initial build?
It's largely because deployment, continuous monitoring, and maintenance, what we broadly call MLOps, are so often treated as an afterthought, as a phase 2, instead of being integral to the project plan from day 1.
Right.
In development, you're worried about statistical performance. In production, you're worried about IT infrastructure, security, uptime. These are fundamentally different disciplines.
So for our technically informed listener, the sources are really warning against the danger of treating the project as purely a data science problem. It's also a system engineering problem.
Exactly. You have to be thinking about the operations side of the MLOps pipeline while you're still gathering the initial training data. Your development environment, like a Jupyter notebook, is a laboratory. It's clean, it's isolated, it uses perfect historical data. Production is a chaotic enterprise environment. It demands immediate responses, and it deals with dirty, live data streams.
Which means teams have to plan for these critical long-term considerations right from the start, long before the model is even finished. What specific elements must be planned for?
The sources outline a few non-negotiables. First is seamless integration with existing systems. Your model can't live on an island. It has to be able to plug into legacy databases, APIs, user interfaces without causing system crashes or unacceptable latency.
Because if the system is too slow to provide a real-time response, it's useless no matter how accurate it is.
Totally useless. And second, you must plan for continuous monitoring for performance drift. The real-world data is always going to change. Customers buy different things. Market conditions shift. This is called concept drift. And if your model isn't monitored, its accuracy will slowly decay, turning an asset into a liability.
So your plan has to include automatic alerts.
Automatic alerts and a clear strategy for retraining or updating the model before that drift really impacts the business metrics. Ignoring these operational realities means you might build a fantastic predictor on Monday, but by Friday, it's already becoming irrelevant.
And that's the critical point for getting long-term value.
It is a model that's built beautifully in the lab, but lacks the plumbing and the maintenance crew, the MLOps processes, to run consistently and adapt. It delivers no sustained value. The source material gives a very direct warning that defines this ultimate failure. A model that only works in a Jupyter notebook but never makes it into production is merely shelfware.
Shelfware. That's a powerful term. An interesting artifact that just sits on the corporate shelf. Impressive to look at, but with no real-world impact or function.
Exactly. And avoiding that fate, avoiding shelfware, requires treating the model not just as an algorithm, but as a critical piece of enterprise software. With all the version control, governance, and infrastructure demands that entails, if you don't build with deployment in mind from day 1, you will never scale.
That provides a really clear, practical roadmap. Let's quickly review these 3 pillars for you, our listener, to make sure your next project avoids that AI project graveyard.
Okay, first, you must start with a clear, specific business problem. Define your quantifiable True North Star metrics before you even start development. Do not start with the tool.
Second, you need to secure that stakeholder buy-in early by translating the project's value into their language, whether that's cost savings for the CFO or reduced friction for the operations lead. They have to become champions, not blockers.
And third, you have to plan and build for deployment and continuous monitoring from day 1. Treat the model as enterprise software to ensure it's integrated, managed, and adaptable, thereby avoiding that costly fate of becoming shelfware.
And if these 3 steps are followed rigorously, if you link the technical brilliance to business value, you secure the organizational support, and you build the deployment pipeline up front, The sources confirm your AI project will not just survive that initial excitement phase.
It will truly deliver real sustained value across the business.
A perfect summary.
And that concept of shelfware, it stays with me. We just discussed a complex AI model that sits isolated in a notebook, delivering zero applied value. So this raises an important question for you, our listener, about the knowledge you acquire. If a complex idea or a deep piece of valuable research, like the insights we just synthesized from these sources, remains isolated in your head or your notes without ever being integrated into a real-world decision or discussion or process, does that valuable insight become knowledge shelfware? It's something to reflect on as you decide where and how to apply the powerful information you've just gained.